I'm WG, we're around 34 hours away from the end of Season 1 and then moving into Season 1.5 or the pre-season leading up to Season 2 with the introduction of Nausea and the Tower mode. So this video is going to be a checklist for you to know if you've done everything accordingly and what should you have done by the time Season 1 ends to get the most out of the seasonal content, to be as prepared as possible and to give you a bit of an idea of what is going to change once the season actually ends. So let's start with the most important part, and that is the supply store. Overall, by all means, regardless of how old your account is or anything else, you should have this Omega code. You either spend it already or you haven't yet, but you want to buy it once, 6,000 season currency. Even if you were just to unlock the season today, you could still play the Great Rift, still play the Chaos mode for the first time, and you'll still be able to accumulate 6,000 points to buy it out. So buying out the Omega code, easy, no brainer. And then in regards to the other items in here, these undetermined ego crystals can be nice, and for those of you that don't know what you do with those are there to do the final upgrades of the crit chance and crit damage nodes on most DPSs, which is where you would use them. So the ability to go from 8% to 10% crit chance, and from I think 9.6 to 12% crit damage. So that's where these are for, and if you have the currency, you obviously want to buy as many of those as possible. You can see I didn't actually do that. What I instead mainly went for is always going to be the summons, right? Those need to go. Then you definitely want to get the multi-dimensional alignment material just to increase the chance of you getting good gear. And then in general, anything that saves you stamina is of high priority, like the books right here, the crystals, and then also the certificates, and then potentially, if you feel like it and if you're looking for a bit more spice in regards to affinity and maybe even lobby backgrounds, the affinity materials are a potential buy as well. So that's kind of how that ended up. And yeah, honestly, I do not recommend buying these traces of memory. Way too expensive for what you're getting, for what you're paying. But I did buy them once or twice regardless. And don't forget, it's a new week, so you have a free tier of God in here as well. So that, because it is a weekly, a new week, that also means what you could do to again get yourself a bunch of points, these final points of the season, is you need to play 2 runs. You need to play 2 runs of difficulty, I think difficulty 5 or beyond. Any 2 runs of this cleared are going to give you 4,000 weekly progress each, meaning after 2 runs you have it fully maxed out. And then the same is true with the Great Rift, where for the Great Rift you have the weekly cumulative rewards, meaning you want a score of 500,000, so you play the first phase for 150,000 either 4 times, or you then just play the second phase and defeat, I think, half a health bar of the first boss, and that should give you 500,000 score, meaning you'll be able to get these rewards here in total as well, giving you probably around another 9,000 points you can spend in the shop as like a last ditch effort. Then here as well, if you wanted to, you could try and still push your scores that little bit higher, trying to get a bit higher in the rankings. The only thing that changes is the coloration of the sticker, and you getting a gear up crystal and 10 shards per rank that you go up. The most important part here though is everybody gets 5 of these fashion pulls. Yeah, all the other tiny notables might just be making sure you have all the achievements to get all the stickers, which is mainly just playing the story, ending with the Chapter 3 EP epilogue, giving you your final sticker, and then the other ones are mainly just seasonal rewards, nothing that's like, you could say, everlasting. And yeah, I think that mainly concludes it. You could obviously still see if you've missed out on the story, which will at the end of the day just be free rewards, and potentially you could try and beat these bosses if you haven't yet at the respective difficulties, but you should most likely have been done with this for quite a while now. Next up, something that's again very, very important is the current ongoing banners in Serenial and Pico. Both of these units are limited, meaning once this banner ends, we do not know when they come back. They won't move into the standard banner. And yeah, the question here is, do you already have them, right? If you already have them, good job, pretty fine. If you don't, make sure you get at least 1 copy of Serenial, regardless of how you feel about her, or if you think anything about it. In general, you always want to get at minimum 1 copy of the limited characters, because at the end of the day, they're limited. You don't know when they'll be coming back. I guess something else here potentially as well. Honestly, I think these deals were pretty sweet in value. If any of you feel like spending, you might just want to do might just want to go for that, even if you're looking for Naja, because chances are we're going to get worse packs for that, but that's honestly completely on the side. Now, on the note of Peko, Peko is a bit more peculiar, but I'd still argue you want to pick up one if you can afford it, but especially if you're like tight on resources, playing free to play, or think you're just going to be able to manage with Yuri, then you can let Peko stay there. But keep in mind, she is the first partner with a permanent fight effect, giving you 25% for potentially every single round, so long as you break the target once at least each round. So that is Peko there, but definitely the priority is Serenial. Furthermore, we get the information on Naja. I think it's, by this time tomorrow. Around tomorrow, once again, we'll have a watch party stream. You get videos giving you the whole kits, Serenial versus Naja, how far do you go with Serenial, all that stuff in more detail, so long as we know how good Naja actually ends up being. And that's the summon side of things. Alright, and then here an event that you might have forgotten about, and that is this Memories of the Arc Protection Bureau Chief, where you can see even I only have 19 out of 21, and that's because you have to specifically go to check the memoir and then click on these fights. You're not gonna complete these fights unless you go in here, and you can see, for example, I'm missing 60 gems right here, and then another 120 right here, meaning that is 180 gems, a singular summon. Make sure you don't miss out on these. The same is also obviously true for Basin of Hyperspace Dimensional Twilight, which will also again end, once more providing you access to Zeronium crystals. I think 1,000 crystals itself. Overall, just some sweet rewards for you just playing through this, and especially if you have a Serenial, you shouldn't really have a lot of trouble. These rewards are actually honestly quite generous, so make sure you get the Dimensional Twilight checked off. So then we have the Chaos itself, only for the next 34 hours, where you have the ability to just re-observe the Chaos, meaning you would have the chance to go for something like a tier 14 world. The reason why the tier 14 worlds would be important is because you then have the save data capacity of 170, and you could also use that to potentially work on something that might be a bit harder to get after the seasonal chaos disappears. Obviously, it's a bit hard to say what exactly happens and how will deck building look in the future. But something that a lot of you were interested in is these zero card decks. And these zero card decks, they are significantly easier to build on tier 14 worlds. If you're interested in that, I have a video on the channel about zero card decks and how you can get ones yourself. They really aren't that powerful, but they are nice to have. An interesting tool, and especially if you feel like soloing content with one character, they are obviously almost required. But that is one of the smaller things. And now let's actually talk about what will happen to the chaos once this season ends. So what we know is that this whole thing will disappear, and they confirmed that Laboratory Zero will be moving over into the Chaos system. So instead of just us having the 5 planets, one for each element, Void will now have 2, being the Void planet itself and Laboratory Zero, that will all now be available to be rolled in the Codex through the same manner. What exactly happens to the event Dimensional Tunnel, we'll have to see. There is a chance that the Dimensional Tunnel becomes an event exclusive to the Lab Zero planet, meaning the cards would be Lab Zero planet locked rather than Zero system wide. That is something that can absolutely happen. And then here we have the January update giving us improvement to Memory Fragment UI, potentially gear sets, I'm hoping for it, but it's looking ever so unlikely. This is obviously the ability to do 3 fights in a singular fight, story skip feature, and the tower mode, but this is what kind of pertains to what we've briefly talked about a few seconds ago, and that is the unique codex options. Now, what does unique codex options even mean, right? Like, what exactly is that even talking? So there's 2 ways for this unique codex to manifest, and that is going to be a completely unique world, as you can see right here, that is also going to have supposedly completely a different build-up compared to any other chaos, like what they said in this stream here would, for example, be you running just into a bunch of unidentified events and then potentially facing a boss. We don't even know if you're really able to like get proper save data out of it, or if it's short, or if it's longer than a normal chaos, but this is what it looks like, kind of this a fully unique sprite, especially from the world. And then here we have the other version, and that is, you see this symbol, you see the second symbol, which kind of looks like Dimensional Tunnel. That is now going to be an event that will be rollable once the update hits, and that is called the Divine Intervention. The way you can think of a Divine Intervention is that you start your fight out or during your fight encounter a godly entity. This godly entity gives you the same event as a mutant sample would. So you take one of your cards, you transform it into the card, and the card removes itself at the end of the fight, making it a 0 cost in terms of save data for removing the card, saving you between 50 to 70 to however many points you want to calculate overall, massively increasing how much you can fit into a single bit of save data. And the important part here as well is these cards that we are meant to like swap cards for are supposedly pretty darn strong according to the devs, meaning that this card will also help you clear the chaos easier, which can help you take on higher difficulties and more disgusting modifiers. And the important part here is this is separate from other events like on the Blue Pot the Meat event, which is a free removal, or on Lab 0 the Mutant Sample, which is a free removal. So you could, for example, in theory, get this unique event on a Lab 0 with then getting the removal and getting the Mutant Sample for the double removal, giving us the highest save data possible ever since the release of the game. So that is something to look forward to. And yeah, I think that mostly caps out or finishes off what we could be looking for. Then again, I still don't know why they didn't include Nausea right here in this January showcase, which confused a lot of people. But yeah, we are going to go into pre-season, the pre-season to season 2. We are going to get all these updates you can see right here. And then I know a lot of you have been asking where the Yuki changes, what happens to Cassius, what happens to Tressa, where all these big updates, what's going on. It's always on a seasonal basis, meaning that all these changes you've been looking for, as well as Divine rerolls, Epiphany rerolls, Save Data Editing tickets, all that stuff is 3 weeks away. At this point, basically 3 weeks away, starting on February 4th. Peace!